So today's video, it's all about the level 2 progress. So what I'm going to do is actually take you around and show you the progress of level 2 to date. I'm also going to show you almost a major mistake I was going to make over at the viaduct concerning the electrical bus wire. I'll show you that very shortly. Then once we've done with that, I'll take you through what my next steps are. I thought I'd just explain a potential major error I was about to make with my wirings. I have these track bus color code printouts around my room just as I'm laying track, just to make sure I get the polarity right, especially on the right side of the track. So I'll hook up red with red and black with black, and there's no short circuit. Well, in this case here with the viaduct, what I'd done, I was actually on this side over here of the viaduct when I was laying this track across it. Now, as you would have heard in my last video, on the side of the Helix, I've actually insulated over there, so the level 1 DCC bus actually stopped powering over on that side of the Helix, and this actual track on the viaduct will be powered by the level 2 DCC bus on the southern end. But what has happened is, because I was over on this side, I'd actually wired that line over there with red and this rail over here with black. But the problem is, once I get up that end more, I then switch sides over to this side here. So what I've actually done is then switched that track that's black here into a red, and then vice versa with this rail here. So in actual fact, if I had have not picked that up and hooked that all up, I would have had a short circuit and would have been scratching my head. So I think it's just a lesson there. Just be very, very careful with your wiring and making sure you get your color coding right. But anyway, look, I picked it up before it went any further and caused havoc. All I've done here is made myself a little note just to say to reverse the red and black wires under the viaduct. See here, I've started putting the sub road bed in. I've got the cork in, I've got my sound deadening underlay. I've actually, on this corner or this curve up here, I've put super elevation. Of course, this is the main escarpment scene. I'm actually going to make sure this has a slight rise on it. So around about this area here, we've probably got a 1% grade where my track work finishes. You can see the super elevation there. Now this is where it starts to transition and heads towards the station. I really needed to make sure there was a fair bit happening in this scene, because really on level 2 here, it is all about the escarpment, and the main theme here is this station. I wanted to make sure I did level 2 justice when it came to framing out the scene and doing the scenery. When considering the Stanwell Park station, the configuration of my layout, the curve is going the wrong way, and I thought, you know, to put the Stanwell Park station in there just wouldn't do it justice. It was just incorrect. Now, I'm not going to say I'm going to model 1 for 1 and it's going to be an exact replica, but I thought that was a pretty big omission there. Now I've decided that I'm going to go with the Helensburgh station. and I'm really looking forward to doing some rock features along this wall here moving up towards the station. So if you look here, I've started to cut out the cork for my points, and this just allows some additional operational switches around the station. Over on this side over here, as it comes off the viaduct, there is going to be a tunnel, and there's going to be a bit of a break in the layout just to change that we're coming away from the viaduct and heading into another new scene. This tunnel is going to be roughly here, and it'll just be a small, I haven't decided quite where it'll come out, but it's only going to be a very short tunnel. I don't want it long. It's just to really give that break in the layout. And as you can see here, I've got the subboards in, and as you can see, it goes all the way up to the northern end. You can see there what I've done to help mark out where I want the track. I've gone back to my Anyrail program. I've printed out the design, stitched it together, and then started to lay and cut it out. So I can roughly see where the tracks are and see whether I'm happy with the final configuration. So where this station is, you can see here, I've actually gone back and made this a 0 grade. After the station, the incline starts to increase again. I'm actually going to extend that a little bit further, so it's going to be closer to this support beam here, and then also down at the other end I am going to increase it a bit further. I think at the moment it's only around about 1.5 meters, and I thought not really long considering when you look at the real ones. So I'm just going to extend that a little bit so I can fit in an extra carriage or two on the passenger rakes. So you can see once I get to this point here, it starts to rise up again. Once I get around to this side and coming back onto the second helix, I'll be raised about 100 millimeters. That means I can actually exclude tier 1 and go straight into tier 2 of the helix. So instead of having 5 tiers, the next helix will only have 4. We're up at the northern end here, and I thought I'd just show you the incline at a little lower height, just so you can see it rising. Obviously we're going to go in the opposite direction. Now roughly around about here, I've actually increased the incline to about a 1.7% grade, and you can see there the steepness of it. Now with the extensive testing that I've done on my main helix is anywhere from 1.8 up to 2.3% climb. Now I've done a few trains and that seems to handle that very well. So I thought, you know, with a 1.5 to 1.7% grade here, that's not going to be a problem. You can see here the printouts that I've got. As I said, I've got that printed out, put on my sub road bed just to give me an idea. Obviously the next set of crossovers is right here. As mentioned earlier, down that end I had the curve points and the normal points with the crossover, and then obviously I've got one at this end of the station, or this end of level 2. So back down at the southern end of level 2 here, the next steps what I need to do is, because this area over here wasn't exactly to my original plan due to the fact that I changed the viaduct curve, I need to just refactor and sort of bring them back into alignment with my original plan, which sort of starts up here. So what I'm going to do, figure out where I'm going to have that crossover there, and then I'm going to rough in where I'm going to put the tracks, trace that in, and then obviously I need to cut a little bit away from this end up here just to make that curved nice transition to the board here. That's the level 2 progress to date. As mentioned earlier, I'm on my way to get that end up to about 100 millimeter, ready to cut out one of those tiers to the helix. So what's my next step? Well, I'm going to continue with the track lane definitely up to the station area. That's so I can then at least get in the DCC bus wires on the southern end, and as mentioned earlier, so once I'm laying my track, I'll have my dropper wires. I'll know exactly where to put the, I guess, the terminals within that DCC bus wire to hook up into. So I'm going to start experimenting with the viaduct skin. I've got to go out and buy some materials. I'm going to try to skin it all in one go, as in the front fascia and the leg supports coming down, and then I'll just mirror that also on the back and then start to fill in some of the other spaces. At this point, I think the skin for the back and front, I'm going to be using probably 3mm MDF board. Like I say, once I start experimenting, I'll start to work out exactly how I'm going to tackle that project.